The bank relocation game. UK finance chief Stephen Jones labelled a no-deal Brexit as a catastrophe for the banking industry. But why exactly would this be? A no-deal Brexit would make it more difficult for financial flows to move across the border. This is largely because once we leave the EU, banks would lose their special passporting rights to conduct business in Europe. For the banks, this is highly damaging. Without a deal, it will be harder for the banks to maintain their relationships with their European clients. Because of this no-deal scenario, the banks face a tough choice: stay in London in hope that an agreement is reached, or relocate to another European trading hub to protect their businesses. The important point is that the banks will have to make an imminent decision. Even if the UK does manage to agree a deal, the banks may have moved already. So, should they stay or should they go? Using a two-stage game, I will answer this question. The game. In the first stage of the game, our two players, HSBC and Lloyds, will decide to stay or relocate. They must both make the decision at the same time. We assume that after making their decision, an agreement is reached, meaning that the banks retain their trading rights. If both banks decide to stay, they receive a payoff of 5 for coordinating. Both banks keep their European clients and their businesses are protected. They also avoid the cost of relocating. If one bank decides to stay and the other decides to relocate, then the remaining bank receives 1 and the relocating bank receives 4. The relocating bank bears the cost of moving offices but is able to take European clients off the remaining bank's hands. If both banks decide to relocate, they receive 3 each. Both banks keep their European clients, but they bear the cost of relocating, and neither gains any additional European clients off the other. The game solution. This game can be solved by identifying Nash equilibria. Nash equilibria occur when neither player can do any better by changing their strategy. Starting with stay, we see that both HSBC and Lloyds don't prefer to switch to relocate, as 5 beats 4 for both banks. We also find that in relocate, that both HSBC and Lloyds don't prefer to switch to stay, as 3 beats 1 for both banks. However, when HSBC has decided to relocate but Lloyds has decided to stay, HSBC does prefer to switch to stay because 5 beats 4. Similarly, when Lloyds has decided to relocate but HSBC has decided to stay, Lloyds does prefer to switch to stay because, again, 5 beats 4. Henceforth, our two pure strategies Nash equilibria are stay, and relocate, as neither player has any incentive to deviate from their action. We can now identify which equilibrium is payoff dominant. The payoff dominant equilibrium is the one that delivers the highest payoff. In this case, it is when both banks coordinate to stay so that they both receive 5. The risk dominant equilibrium is the one with the highest Nash product. This is the opportunity cost of both players unilaterally deviating from the Nash equilibrium payoff. The Nash product of stay is equal to 5 minus 4 plus 5 minus 4, making 2. The Nash product of relocate is equal to 3 minus 1 plus 3 minus 1, making 4. Therefore, relocate is our risk-dominant equilibrium. So, we have a conflict between our payoff and risk-dominant equilibria. Players tend to favour their risk-dominant solution, but we can make sure the payoff-dominant solution is chosen by introducing a cooperation contingent reward. Suppose that the Bank of England is willing to reward the banks with higher interest rates if both decide to stay. When both banks stay, a smoother Brexit is delivered, and therefore the bank is happy to raise interest rates. With higher interest rates, the banks earn higher profits, leading them to earn a payoff of 5 in the second stage of the game. However, if one or both of the banks decide to relocate, then a harsher Brexit is delivered. The bank is no longer willing to raise interest rates, and therefore the banks receive nothing in the second stage of the game as a punishment for not coordinating in the first stage of the game. By implementing this strategy, the banks are incentivized to coordinate in the first stage of the game. Hence, they earn an overall payoff of 10 each, rather than opting for the risk-dominant solution, which only delivered a payoff of 3 each. So, what lessons have we learned? Our solution reflects upon the nature of coordination. Left to make our decisions alone, coordination failure is prominent, as shown by the tendency of players to play their risk-dominant action. However, Through simple reward and punishment strategies, coordination failure can be overcome and to the benefit of all agents. Thank you for listening.